In this video, I'm going to be comparing the Departed franchise to the Stanford Prison Experiment franchise. In the case of the Departed, a movie from Martin Scorsese with Mark Wahlberg in it, which I think is one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. As it turns out, it's actually a remake of a movie called Internal Affairs, a Hong Kong film that came out in 2002. I didn't even know this until I looked it up within the last few days. So I was like, oh, actually, I can talk about The Departed in one of my videos. Now, in 2015, there's this movie that came out called Stanford Prison Experiment. That's a documentary style drama movie that's based on this real life experiment that was done called the Stanford Prison Experiment. This movie, wow, it does exactly what it's trying to do very effectively. That inherently makes it a tough watch, because what this is trying to do is just show you right there very clearly why this experiment is known as one of the scariest and most controversial classroom experiments ever conducted. This movie does a very effective job of showing you why things went really off the rails. Right? This experiment got really bad. There's also this movie called Das Experiment. It's a German movie that came out back in 2001. And then in 2010, this movie came out called The Experiment, which is based on the movie Das Experiment. Both of these ones are based on the real life Stanford prison experiment, though they're certainly not identical to the real life events. There's some liberties taken, but the influence is still clearly there. When you look at highest score for each franchise, in the case of The Departed, actually the movie Internal Affairs has the highest score of 94%. In the case of Stanford Prison Experiment, the 2015 movie has a score of 84%. That's the highest, so Departed wins here. Then when you look at lowest score, the movie The Experiment from 2010, that's in English, that one only is a 49%. Lowest score for the Departed franchise is only a 91% for Departed, and that's still a fantastic score. Departed wins here. Then when you look at average, Departed has an average of 92, whereas Stanford Prison Experiment, the average is 68. Then when you look at gap between lowest and highest score, with The Departed, you literally only have a gap of 3%. In the case of Stanford Prison Experiment, you have a gap that's definitely higher because it's 35. So Departed wins again, meaning no matter how I personally feel Departed is going to win this debate. Now, for those of you who don't know, the real life Stanford Prison Experiment happened back in the 1970s. It started by this professor named Philip Zimbardo at Stanford University. He had all these college students come to the institution. These students saw ads saying that, hey, here's this experiment. If you participate in it, then you will get money. So they decided to come. And then after they got there, they were asked, do you want to be prisoners or guards? So the way this worked is the people who were selected to be guards were given matching uniforms to wear, black sunglasses, a baton. The people who were prisoners wore these shirts with numbers on them, like what you see with, well, actual prisoners. The guards only refer to these people by numbers, not by their names. And even though this experiment only actually lasted for a pretty short amount of time, like 6 days, wow, did it get bad, where the guards just became cruel to the prisoners, where they would enforce the rules in a completely arbitrary manner. Like, for example, you have these people who would say, hey, 6806, make your bed. The person makes the bed, and then the guard would go ahead and unmake the bed right in front of this prisoner and say, hey, 6806, clearly your bed's not made, make it. Or, for example, hey, 7491, you're not eating your food? Well, in that case, we're gonna lock you in this closet and you're staying in this dark closet until you learn your lesson. Do you understand? Oh, man, it got scary to the point where this experiment has been criticized after the fact. And man, I watched the 2015 film. I was like, okay, that is effective. That did what it's trying to do. But inherently, I'm not in any rush to rewatch it. Whereas with The Departed, that's a movie I'm more likely to rewatch. It's not necessarily my thing, and not that much into crime movies, but The Departed is really well done. The acting is great. It's a compelling story where you have this guy who actually is a police officer that's working undercover in a criminal organization. It's undercover with the mob. While on the other hand, you have someone who actually is working for the mob but is undercover with the police. And so the movie becomes this cat and mouse chase where both of them are trying to figure out who the rat is on the other side, who the mole is on the other side. And then later on someone is killed, and so this one of the two main characters is like, "Oh, you got my friend killed? Well, I'm going after you. I can't forget about that. You need to pay." And then the movie ends with both of them getting killed. I don't remember all the details off the top of my head, but it has this shocking ending, and then the movie literally cuts to an actual rat. So the symbolism there is pretty clear. The movie looks good, and Mark Wahlberg is really memorable because he's playing such a hard-edged character that is so in your face pretty much the whole time. But then his reaction when the friend is killed just communicates so much. I haven't seen Internal Affairs, nor have I seen Das Experiment or The Experiment. So, what the question really is here is, which movie do I actually prefer? Stanford Prison Experiment 2015 or The Departed? Well, it's an interesting question because, I mean, I think both movies do exactly what they're setting out to do really effectively. I don't have a lot of gripes with either movie, so no matter which franchise I pick, not throwing shade at the other one whatsoever. I would say, oh, I would choose the I choose The Departed because I think it's one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. He's not even a director that's my personal favorite. Logically, obviously, I know, yeah, he's one of the best directors out there, but I haven't actually seen a lot of his movies. He tends to focus on things that I'm just not as interested in. I've seen The Wolf of Wall Street before. I've seen Killers of the Flower Moon before. Both those movies are very effective, but inherently are not ones that I'm in any rush to rewatch. I have seen Shutter Island. That one actually is different because I would be fine with rewatching Shutter Island. That's not a tough watch, the same way that Killers of a Flower Moon or Wolf of Wall Street are. I mean, if those two movies, you're dealing with heavy subject matter, and so inherently they're a tough watch and not very easy to get through. Now, in the case of Stanford Prison Experiment, that film is very effective. I don't actually remember who directed it, though. I think The Departed is a bit more of an accessible Scorsese movie, one that I'm definitely more likely to watch compared to some of his other movies. So that's a big reason why I just have to choose The Departed. So when I think about directors, the thing is, there's ones like Steven Spielberg, Richard Donner, Robert Zemeckis that I like more than Martin Scorsese. I've seen more of their movies. I connect with them more. But logically, I know that obviously, if you're talking about who's the best directors out there, you have to include Martin Scorsese in that list. He's been making movies for so long. That'll be all for this video.